A female CEO mocked a black mechanic. "Fix this engine and I'll marry you." Then I did. You ever hear a line so ridiculous, so dripping with arrogance, that it sticks in your head long after the moment passes? For me, it was this. "Fix this engine and I'll marry you." Now, she didn't say it with a smile. There wasn't a trace of flirtation in her voice. No, those words were spat out like a challenge, a joke meant to cut me down to size. She thought she was reminding me of my place, a CEO towering over a mechanic, a woman with money, status, and power against a man with grease on his hands and dirt under his nails. But here's the thing. Engines don't care about your bank account. They don't bend for arrogance or charm. They answer only to skill. And on that day, mine spoke louder than she ever could. I remember the way her eyes flickered when the engine roared back to life, like thunder breaking a smug silence. For the first time, her words hung in the air not as a joke, but as a debt, a promise she never thought would come due. This wasn't just about a car. It was about respect. About standing tall when someone tried to make you feel small. And in that instant, when pride met reality, the balance of power shifted. She thought it was a joke. I knew it was a challenge. And let me tell you, there's nothing sweeter than proving someone wrong when they've already written you off. Now, before we dive into the full story, the insults, the arrogance, and the moment everything flipped on its head, I've got to say this. Hey, if you love stories where justice isn't just served, it's chilled and plated with silver, please hit subscribe. These videos take hours of writing, editing, and, let's be honest, emotional recovery from second-hand rage. So your support, it means the world. Alright, buckle up, because this story, it isn't just about fixing an engine. It's about dismantling someone's pride. Bolt by bolt, I've always believed that a person's worth isn't measured by the shine on their shoes or the size of their paycheck. For me, it was measured by the things I could fix. Engines, transmissions, machines other people called dead. That was my world. Long days, rough hands, a little grease under the nails. Not glamorous, but honest. And in my shop, I knew exactly who I was. Still, when you work in overalls instead of a suit, people tend to underestimate you. Some think mechanic means uneducated, desperate, or easy to walk over. I'd grown used to it, but nothing prepared me for the day she rolled in. Her car announced her before she did. A sleek European luxury ride, the kind of machine that costs more than my entire garage. It pulled up smooth, glossy black paint shimmering in the sunlight, and then the door opened. And she stepped out. Sharp suit, designer heels, perfectly styled hair. She was the kind of woman who could stop a room mid-breath. But when she spoke, that's when the shine wore off. "Are you the mechanic?" she asked, scanning me like I was some stain on the floor. I wiped my hands on a rag and nodded. "Yeah, ma'am." "What seems to be the problem?" She gave this little laugh, short, sharp, cold. "Of course, figures. Like my very existence confirmed her low expectations. She launched into a story about her engine trouble, but it wasn't really about the car. It was about her. Every word dripped with condescension, like she was performing for an audience that didn't exist. Finally, she leaned against the hood, smirked, and said it. The line that burned itself into my memory. "Tell you what, if you can fix this engine, I'll marry you." It wasn't flirtation, not even close. It was a punchline to a joke I hadn't realized she was telling. Her tone made it crystal clear. She wasn't offering a prize. She was making fun of me, my job, my race, my supposed place in the world. To her, I was entertainment, a grease-stained fool chasing scraps. I remember blinking at her, caught between anger and disbelief. Marry her? As if I was standing there hoping for her hand in the first place. "Excuse me?" I asked, just to be sure I'd heard right. She didn't flinch. She leaned in, smile wide, and me. "You heard me. Fix it, and maybe I'll consider lowering my standards." The words cut sharper than any wrench. Not because I wanted her, but because she wanted me small. She wanted me beneath her heel. Now, here's the thing. Most people, faced with that level of arrogance, would have walked away, saved their pride, refused the game. But me? I've never been the kind to back down from a challenge, even one meant to humiliate me. Engines are puzzles, and puzzles don't lie. They don't care what color your skin is, how big your bank account might be, or what you think you're owed. They respond only to patience, skill, and respect. And that day, I knew her arrogance had just given me the perfect chance to prove all three. But before I move forward, let me throw this question out to you guys. Asterisk asterisk, have you ever been underestimated just because of your job or your background? Drop your experience in the comments if you've been there, because trust me, there's a unique kind of satisfaction in turning mockery into motivation, and in my case, that so-called joke was about to flip the script entirely. I didn't take her words as an insult. Not anymore. I took them as fuel. If she wanted to laugh, fine, let her. Because once that engine started, it wouldn't just shut her up, it would rewrite the whole scene. So I grabbed my tools and popped the hood. The smell hit me first: burnt oil, stale gasoline, a faint metallic tang. The kind of smell that tells you something's been neglected for too long. I traced the lines with my eyes, listening to the silence, noting every detail. Engines talk if you know how to listen. This one was screaming. She leaned against the wall, arms folded, eyes darting from her phone to me like she was half bored, half amused. "Don't tell me it's too complicated for you," she said, her tone honeyed with sarcasm. I didn't look up. Engines aren't complicated. People are. Her laugh echoed through the garage. Cute. Let's see if you can back that up. I tuned her out, focused instead on the rhythm of my work. Wrench, twist, loosen, each movement precise, deliberate. My mind slipped into that zone where everything else fades. There's a strange peace in problem solving. Every bolt, every wire, a step closer to truth. At first, she kept the commentary going. Little digs. Careful. Don't break a nail. Or, need me to call you real technician. But then, silence. It happened slowly. The moment she realized I wasn't fumbling, wasn't guessing. I knew exactly what I was doing. Her smirk wavered. Her arms dropped from that smug fold to her sides. I caught the shift in her expression, though I pretended not to. That's the best part of proving someone wrong. You don't have to say a word. You just let them watch. Minutes stretched, tools clinked, sweat beaded on my brow. She checked her phone again, but this time it wasn't boredom, it was nervousness. Finally, after tightening the last bolt, I wiped my hands and slid into the driver's seat. My pulse thudded like a drumline in my chest. Because here's the truth: every mechanic has that sliver of doubt, that tiny voice whispering, asterisk, what if it doesn't start? Asterisk, I turned the key. The engine coughed once, twice, then roared back to life like a beast awakened. Smooth, powerful, flawless. The kind of sound that makes a mechanic's heart swell. Her reaction, priceless. Her jaw dropped just slightly before she snapped it shut. She tried to hold on to that veneer of superiority, but the crack showed. Her eyes betrayed her, wide and startled, like she'd just seen gravity bend. I stepped out, the engine humming steady behind me. "There you go," I said casually, as if I'd just tightened a loose screw on a lawnmower. For a second, she said nothing. Then, with forced lightness, "Well, looks like even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes," I smiled, slow and steady. Or maybe some squirrels actually know where to look. That one hit. I could tell, because this wasn't about a car anymore. It was about pride. And right there, in that moment, hers was slipping like sand through her fingers. The silence stretched, heavy. She shifted her weight, trying to reclaim the room, but the power dynamic had already flipped. The car purred like it belonged to me, not her, and me. I felt something deeper than victory. I felt respected not by her, but by the machine, by my own craft, and that was more than enough. Still, I couldn't help but savor the irony. She'd set the terms, asterisk, fix the engine and I'll marry you, asterisk. Her voice had carried it like an insult, a cruel joke. But now the joke was on her. I didn't rub it in, didn't need to. Her silence was victory enough. And let me throw this one to you guys, asterisk, what's the most satisfying "I told you so" moment you've ever had? Asterisk, because standing there, with her words hanging useless in the air and that engine growling steady behind me, I swear I've never tasted satisfaction so sweet. When that engine roared back to life, the whole garage seemed to change. The sound wasn't just mechanical, it was symbolic. A steady rhythm that drowned out every insult she'd thrown at me. Her own words came back to haunt her. Asterisk, fix this engine and I'll marry you. Asterisk. Suddenly, they weren't a joke anymore. They hung heavy in the air, sharp and unavoidable. And for the first time, she didn't have a comeback ready. I didn't gloat, didn't puff out my chest or throw her words back in her face. I didn't need to. The silence was louder than anything I could have said. She cleared her throat, eyes darting around like she was searching for an escape hatch. Finally, she let out a brittle laugh. "Well, looks like you've got some skill after all. Lucky day. Huh." I just leaned against the car, wiping my hands on a rag, calm as ever. Not luck, just work. That answer seemed to sting more than anything, because luck would have meant she still had the upper hand. Work meant I'd earned it and she couldn't take that away. The timing couldn't have been worse for her. A couple of customers had come in while I was under the hood. Two regulars, old friends who trusted me with their cars. They stopped mid-step, watching as the luxury machine hummed steady, and then they glanced at her. It was subtle, but you could see it. The shift in their eyes, the recognition that this wasn't just a repair, it was a reckoning. She noticed it too. That's when she tried to laugh louder, force the moment into something lighter. "Oh, come on," she said, waving a hand. "Don't tell me you took that seriously." It was a joke, obviously. Her voice cracked on that last word. "Sure," I said quietly. A joke. I didn't smile, didn't challenge her, just let the weight of her own words crush her. And the thing about arrogance, it doesn't know how to survive silence. It flails. She fiddled with her phone, adjusted her jacket, pretended like she wasn't bothered. But her cheeks flushed just a little, enough that the customers caught it. One of them raised his eyebrows, the other smirked, not at me, but at her. And that was the kill shot, because humiliation doesn't always come from being shouted down. Sometimes it's worse when you realize everyone else sees through the act you've worked so hard to maintain. She tried one last time to spin the moment back in her favor. "Well, I suppose congratulations are in order. You fixed it. Guess that makes you, what, Prince Charming?" Her words wobbled, desperate. I shook my head. "No, just a mechanic who knows his worth." Silence again, heavy. Final. The engine purred behind me, steady as truth, while her laughter finally sputtered out. She couldn't hold it together anymore. The audience, those two customers, the sound of the engine, even the walls of the shop had turned against her. And in that instant, I realized something. I hadn't just fixed her car. I'd exposed her. The arrogance, the cruelty, the superiority complex, it all cracked right there in front of me. That's when it hit me. Asterisk, I didn't just fix her car. I broke her mask. Asterisk, so here's my question for you guys. Asterisk, if someone insulted you like this, would you let it go? Or make sure they learned a lesson? Asterisk, because trust me, the story doesn't end here. Revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes, it doesn't need raised voices or broken glass. Sometimes the sharpest blade is success, quiet, undeniable, and public. That moment in the garage, when her words collapse under the hum of an engine, that was the spark. But the fire that followed, that's where the real revenge lived. Word spread faster than I expected. Small town, big mouths. A CEO had strutted into a corner garage, mocked the mechanic, and walked out with her pride in tatters. People love stories like that. They traveled. At first, I brushed it off. Work was work. I fixed cars. Same as always. The customers started trickling in with a different look in their eyes. Respect, curiosity. Some wanted oil changes. Others asked me to check their engines just because they'd heard I could do miracles. I'd smile, shake my head, and get to work. But deep down, I felt it. The shift, and her. Oh, she felt it too. She came back a week later, sunglasses on, like she could hide behind them. Walked into my shop with a tone that tried to sound casual. I just wanted to make sure the car's still running smooth. I didn't call her out. Didn't need to. I just popped the hood, checked a few things, and said, "Engine's perfect." Guess it just needed someone who cared to listen. Her jaw tightened. She signed the bill, left without a word. That should have been it. But pride is a fragile thing, and hers was cracking. See, reputation is currency. And for someone like her, a CEO built on image, charm, and power, losing face was more dangerous than losing money. Suddenly, whispers followed her into meetings. Jokes circled around boardrooms. "Careful," they'd say. "Don't bet against the mechanic." She tried to laugh it off, but you can't unring a bell. Meanwhile, business for me boomed. Not overnight, but steady. A journalist even came by, curious about the local mechanic who embarrassed a CEO. I told him the truth. I just fixed an engine. The rest, that's her story, not mine. Funny thing, humility spreads, too. Customers respected that I didn't milk the moment, didn't make it bigger than it was. And that respect turned into loyalty. Every time she drove past my garage, she had to see the full lot. Cars lined up, people waiting. Success she'd accidentally handed me, gift wrapped in arrogance. One night, months later, I spotted her at a dinner downtown. Expensive place, full of suits and sharp smiles. She was at the bar, trying to laugh with colleagues. But her eyes, they told the truth. Tired, cornered, brittle. She saw me across the room. For a second, the mask slipped again, just like in the garage. Her laughter faltered, her shoulders stiffened, and I realized my silence that day had grown louder with time. I didn't approach her. Didn't need to. Revenge had already been served, and it tasted far better than any sharp retort ever could. Because here's the thing about karma. It doesn't always slam the door. Sometimes, it leaves it cracked open just enough for everyone to see who's stumbling, and me. I kept walking through open doors of my own, expanded the shop, hired 2 apprentices, built something lasting. Not out of spite, but out of pride. Revenge wasn't the sound of her humiliation, it was the sight of my thriving. Looking back, I realize I never wanted her apology. I didn't need her validation. What I needed, what I got, was proof. Proof that skill outlasts arrogance, and grit outshines power when the lights flicker. So the next time someone laughs at what you do, remember this: silence can be a weapon, and success is the sweetest revenge. And that's why I didn't just fix a car. I rebuilt my future, and she watched hers unravel, thread by thread. So tell me, what's your favorite example of karma coming full circle? Let's hear your stories. Arrogance has a funny way of circling back. You can cover it with designer clothes, polished smiles, and boardroom swagger, but when the cracks start showing, everyone notices. And her cracks, they were showing. At first, it was subtle. A comment whispered in a meeting, an email reply that carried more bite than respect. Colleagues who once bowed to her power started raising eyebrows. That mocking bet she'd made, the one about marrying a mechanic, was now office legend. It spread like wildfire, stripped of context, polished into a story about hubris. The cruel part, she had written her own downfall, word for word. I heard about it from a friend of a friend who worked in her company. They said she snapped at people more, tried to overcompensate with control, that the harder she gripped, the faster people slipped away. Clients pulled back, rivals smirked in silence. Even her own employees started keeping their distance, afraid of being caught in the blast radius. Meanwhile, my life moved in the opposite direction. That garage, the one she mocked, it became a beacon. People drove in from towns over, just to say they'd had their car fixed by the mechanic who showed up. The CEO. Silly, maybe, but respect has its own currency. And opportunity followed. A local dealership called, offering a contract to service their inventory. A trade school asked me to guest lecture about diagnostics and hands-on troubleshooting. Me, a guest lecturer? I still laugh at the thought. Funny how one moment of humiliation can split into 2 paths. One climbing, one crumbling. She tried to act like nothing had changed. I even saw her at a networking event once. She stood on stage, voice steady, makeup flawless, but her eyes, those betrayed her. They darted, searching, bracing for the snicker, the whispered reminder. Power doesn't vanish overnight, but the illusion of it, that can disappear in a heartbeat. I didn't have to say a word, didn't have to gloat or remind anyone of what happened. The story carried itself, and her silence only made it heavier. I'd ask myself sometimes, would she ever apologize? Admit she was wrong. Maybe even laugh at herself and move on. But pride's a stubborn thing. It feeds on denial, and she had a lot of denial to burn through. Meanwhile, my own pride came from somewhere different. Not arrogance, just knowing I had earned every callus, every streak of grease, every long night under a hood. That pride builds slow, steady. It doesn't shatter when someone mocks it. The irony. Her challenge, meant to humiliate me, became my turning point. She'd thrown a spotlight I never asked for, and I'd used it to show people what I could do. So while her image dimmed, mine grew, and the power between us shifted, slowly but undeniably. Because here's the truth. People remember arrogance, but they respect resilience. And when the two collide, resilience wins every single time. Do you think she ever apologized, or is her pride too strong? It didn't come right away. Pride kept her silent for weeks, maybe months. But eventually, a message arrived. Short, polished, the kind of thing you'd expect from someone who built their empire on appearances. Hey, about what I said that day. I didn't mean it like that. You're clearly talented. Maybe we should talk. I stared at it for a long minute. Not angry. Not even surprised. Just curious. Was this guilt speaking? Damage control? Or maybe she just wanted to reclaim some of the dignity she'd lost. Old me would have jumped at the chance to clear the air, to prove I wasn't some stereotype she could laugh off. But now, I didn't need her validation. Not anymore. See, Something had shifted. Business was thriving. My name carried weight in circles she never imagined I'd enter. Every engine I fixed, every client who came back smiling, that was proof enough. Her approval, it had no value. I thought about replying. Something sharp. Maybe, didn't mean it. You said it loud enough for the whole shop to hear. Or maybe I'd send a picture of the dealership contract I'd sign. Just to twist the knife, but then I realized. That would make it about her again, and she didn't deserve that power. So I did nothing. No reply. No acknowledgement. Just silence. And let me tell you, silence is heavy. Louder than any comeback I could have written. Because here's the truth. She had tried to define me with a joke. Tried to lock me into the role of just a mechanic, but now the roles were reversed. She was the one scrambling, trying to rewrite the story. I didn't have to play along. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't fireworks, or big speeches, or rubbing it in someone's face. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is realizing you've already won, and I had. Time has a way of sorting things out. What feels huge in the moment, loud, humiliating, unbearable, shrinks with distance. And what's built on truth, that only grows. For me, the garage became more than a workplace. It became a name, a brand, a place people trusted. Word of mouth spread faster than I could have imagined. Customers didn't just show up for service. They showed up because they'd heard about the mechanic who shut down a CEO with nothing but skill. At first, I laughed it off, but eventually, I leaned into it, because it wasn't just a story about me. It was about every person who'd ever been underestimated. I hired more staff, expanded the shop, got contracts I'd never dreamed of before. The same people who once looked past me now asked for advice, referrals, even mentorship. And let me tell you, respect tastes sweeter, and it's earned through grit, not handed out like candy. And her, the CEO with the mocking smile, she faded, slowly, quietly. Her company kept running, sure, but the shine was gone. The legend she'd built about being untouchable cracked wide open. People remembered her arrogance. They remembered the joke that turned into her downfall. And in business, reputation is currency. She spent hers too carelessly, and the debt came due. I never saw her again in person. Just heard whispers she lost a client here, a deal there. The empire didn't crumble overnight, but it didn't enough for her to slip into the background. Not a titan, not an icon, just a cautionary tale. Funny, isn't it? Sometimes revenge isn't fire and fury. Sometimes it's the quiet contrast between two lives, one rising, one fading. I didn't carry bitterness, didn't waste nights replaying the insult. I poured my energy into what mattered: craft, community, legacy. The more I built, the less space she took up in my mind. That's healing, right? Not pretending it never happened, but refusing to let it define you. Looking back, I almost feel grateful. Not for her words, they were cruel, but for the spark they lit. Without that moment, maybe I would have stayed small, unseen, too comfortable in my corner of the world. Instead, I rose, and she learned that mocking the wrong person can cost more than you expect, because here's the truth: respect is earned, not bought. And underestimating the wrong person, that's a debt life always collects on. In the end, his victory didn't need fireworks. No mic drop moment, no standing over her with a smug grin. His life, his success, that was louder than any insult she ever threw. The shop kept thriving. His reputation kept growing. And her words, they dissolved into the background noise of a story she probably wished she'd never told. That's the beauty of dignity paired with skill. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It simply stands solid, uncheckable, undeniable. Because arrogance fades. Privilege crumbles when it isn't backed by respect. But true craft, real resilience, that's permanent. And every time an engine roared back to life under his hands, it was proof. Proof that she had never defined him. Proof that her mockery had been nothing more than an echo against steel. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is no revenge at all. It's choosing to rise, to build, to let your work speak when words aren't worth wasting. And that's what he did. He rose. If you found this story as cathartic as I did, please hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe. These scripts take hours to write, edit, and narrate, and honestly, the second-hand rage takes a little emotional recovery. 2. Your support keeps these stories alive, and it means the world. Until next time, remember, respect is earned, never bought. And underestimating the wrong person, well, life always collects on that debt.